Hello?
It's Brenda again and King again. Hello?
Can you say that? Yes, can you say that again?
I just wanted to say good evening to all of you guys. It's an honor to be back on the show.
Oh, good evening to you. It's an honor to have you on the show. Any questions or thoughts?
Okay. Ann Bremner?
Yes.
Yes, regarding the fact that he is now not wanting to go and attend his own trial, right?
Who?
Chisholm is refusing
Yes, okay, I'm with you.
to go to trial. And his defense is one of insanity. And also with that, I know you know Rule 54 that says that he is supposed to attend all of his proceedings for due process to take place.
Exactly, right.
How does that weigh in if he's convicted and he didn't attend all the trials, and how is that set up for an appealable issue?
Well, of course, you've got the confrontation clause, et cetera, and his right to due process and to attend the trial. If he's voluntarily absenting himself and he's also competent to stand trial, I'm assuming that they had a competency hearing if they've got a mental defense, the competence actually just to stand the trial, then there's other ways they can try and involve him in the case. This goes back to Charles Manson, even have him in a room where he can hear, or by video conference, or, whatever. So he's got that same ability. I mean, that's what you want to have done so you don't have this issue on appeal. There are cases where someone completely absents themselves where it still can be upheld, but that's tough. There was even a death penalty case, where somebody ingested some tobacco, I think, and couldn't attend the sentencing hearing, and that got reversed. Sorry, my cats are having a little snark fest. Can you hear them? I've got battling cats right here. Sorry. But I think that they've got to make sure they try every way they can to keep him involved in the trial.
Exactly, because, if he feels like he wants to explode, can't they they should be able to give him some anti-anxiety medication or something.
Exactly, and they can do it, and that's legal. That's a great point. It's absolutely legal to do. They did it with
and
Lochner and others.
I'm wondering if some of it is not malingering and he's not kind of exaggerating it.
Right. I mean, he may well have mental problems. It's hard to believe a 14-year-old could have the capacity to do that if he didn't.
Well, they say he has psychosis, so again, my point is, even though he can waive his right to be at trial, my point is, if he has psychosis and had it then but is now competent, how is that going to stand up the fact that he waived his right to be at trial and then he gets convicted? That's my point.
Well, the question is, did he have the capacity to make that waiver? And he's also a juvie. He's 14, for gosh sakes. He's not an adult. So... we used to have it where they couldn't even give statements unless their parents signed off, so we've come a long way. In fact, we used to have juvenile cases that weren't criminal. It was more of a dependency. We criminalized all this in the 70s.
Right.
And we set the death penalty for juveniles.
It's just horrible. It's I don't know. I can't wrap my head around a 14-year-old doing something like that.
I can't either, but, I think that's why they all have social files in juvenile, because at least the kids I saw that killed had horrible backgrounds.
Oh, okay.
Psyched or
It's usually the background, Ann, right?
Yeah, the background of there wasn't a kid that I prosecuted on a murder case that didn't have a horrible history, whether it was their own mental issues, family issues, economic issues, abuse issues.
Right.
Oh, there was always something.
Okay.
It just breaks your heart.
Thank you, and you guys have a great Thanksgiving, and enjoy talking to you again, Ann Bremner and King Jordan. Happy belated birthday. Okay, bye-bye.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, Mary, and thanks for all you do on Twitter and Facebook. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mary.
Absolutely. Let's go out to New York City and say hello to Scott. Good evening, Scott. You're on live with Ann Bremner.
Oh, hey, yeah, it's I've been listening for the past couple of weeks. I've been enjoying this show. It's great to find a show on Blog Talk Radio where everyday people have a chance to speak to these very distinguished legal luminaries like Ann Bremner.
Thanks.
She's
one of the best.
thank you, King Jordan, for providing this wonderful service. And
it's my pleasure.
I was just wondering. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was just wondering. As a defense attorney, this is news to me that that there are laws putting an obligation on people to tell them you're HIV positive. I mean, as a defense attorney, do you see any constitutional problems with that? I mean, it's like the government requiring you to getting involved in I mean, I see perhaps a freedom of speech issue.
And privacy.
Government compelling you, privacy, equal protection. Why HIV but not syphilis or gonorrhea or other diseases? I mean, I just find this very constitutionally troublesome. And I was just wondering if you see any objections or know of any.
Great point.
That's a great point, and thank you, Scott, for your very kind words. You know, you're right, but that's, I think, why the statute, and there's other statutes dealing with, other types of communicable diseases and, afflictions, and I know that there's been a lot of litigation in the areas of contraction of the herpes virus, but the statute's real specific, and I think that's why it's probably withstood challenges, and it says that you're guilty if you know you're HIV positive, you have unprotected sexual relations with somebody without just telling them about your condition. But it goes on to talk about the specific intent to inflict the HIV. So what they're doing is criminalizing that action, the inaction and not telling, and then the action of actually doing something volitional. They've made that a crime. So that you're not dealing with your privacy or your HIPAA rights or free speech necessarily when you're dealing with that actual activity and inactivity, if that makes sense. This took years. In the beginning, there was a real fight, back in the early 80s, over these types of cases, of whether there would be prosecutions. And what were those prosecutions? They were for other crimes. But there was a real pushback saying that it was stigmatizing and criminalizing a disease that you can't help or a virus that you can't help.
I imagine it's quite hard to prove specific intent to actually want to transmit HIV.
Exactly.
I don't think Charlie Sheen. It's one thing to clearly he enjoyed being sexual. He enjoyed his partners. It doesn't sound like he had a vengeful, sort of attitude where he wanted to harm these people. He just enjoyed having a lot of promiscuous sex, so I think the specific intent would be rather hard to prove. I was just wondering, what you think about that provision.
That's really hard to prove, and that's the California law that they'll be dealing with. It's really hard to prove. I mean, frankly, I think he was so out of it sometimes he didn't have the specific intent to do much of anything. But
right.
At least we listened to him, right? But all that kidding aside, that's a tough burden. But that's what the law says that I've seen it, as it's been stated in relation to Charlie Sheen's case. So, but can you infer intent? Do you infer intent from the acts that he did? That's tough, and would the court allow an inference to be made? I don't know. And the fact of the matter is, the other thing is none of them are HIV positive. We haven't seen anybody come forward saying that was involved with Charlie Sheen intimately, unprotectedly, that has HIV. It's not necessary for the crime, the conviction, but nobody's come forward saying that they contracted the virus from him.
And also, by the way, I've learned that there are tests these days where you can literally find out in minutes if you have HIV. And they,
really?
Yeah, and there are also medications. If someone has a promiscuous lifestyle, there are medications you can take prophylactically to reduce your risk of passing on HIV or contracting HIV. So I'm just find it very troublesome, all the burden being placed on the one who's HIV positive. I think even if you're HIV negative, you should be taking, responsible actions too. And there's so many with the prophylactic medications I mentioned, and
right.
The testing you could do. You could ask your partner, hey, just do me a favor and just take a few minutes to take this quick.
That's a great point.
Yeah. This is kind of this all this blame putting on the people who are the carriers of the disease. I think health, sexual health. Whenever you're having sex with someone where you don't have proof of what they're of whether they're free of diseases, you should always assume you should practice safe sex. I'm troubled by this responsibility and burden and stigma being put on those who have the disease.
Well, and that's a great point, Scott. And the other thing is, he got it somewhere, didn't he? I mean, that's the other thing. He's a victim in some ways.
Yeah.
Use that word. But the second thing is that you're dealing with the number of women by their own admission that are in the sex industry, or they're involved with pornography, or they say that he's hired prostitutes. I don't know if he did, but those are the kind of anecdotal things we've seen. So you would think he'd be even more vigilant, if you're involved with him. And you also know that he's promiscuous because he says that, and it's all over the news, to be careful and to act. So I think, it's so important for everybody to be responsible in this day and age.
Right.
And then finally, it's really hard to prove these cases because, when did he know he had AIDS? When did he, they're going to have to do a whole bunch of discovery into his medical records. Into what did he know? When did he know it? What did he know about it? Would he know that he would transmit it? I mean, we keep hearing, at least from his doctor, that it's undetectable now in his blood, the virus, and so the chance of transmission was very low. That's what his doctor said. So how does that, fit in with the statute?
Right, and that gets back to my concern about the constitutionality, that in this day and age, HIV is so treatable, especially if you take your medications regularly every day. It's not.
Right.
I mean,
it's not a death sentence.
It's not a death sentence. That's right. And so that disease being singled out, at least from an equal protection.
That's a great point. No, that's a great
Excellent.
point. And you see, excellent. There's other cases that deal with attempted assault or other ways of talking about transmission of intimate diseases. That they've charged them different kinds of ways too. And it'd take me a minute to research statutes specific to, for example, herpes virus, other things. But these cases have been prosecuted. There have been civil cases. I've handled a civil case with the herpes virus on behalf of someone that was a claimed victim, and they're hard to prove. We were able to settle it. But I think, the thing is, you don't ask for this, and he didn't ask for this. And I think he's getting a real mixed result in terms of public sentiment. And maybe that's a helpful thing, to advance the conversation in any event that we're having about HIV. We've come a long way. It doesn't kill everybody like it did in the early 80s.
Well, that's right, and I hope they'll use this new status he has as one of the most well-known people with HIV in the world, to tell them what we've been discussing, that it is treatable, that if you get tested and take your medications vigilantly, you can lead a long, regular life. I hope he becomes a spokesperson.
That's great.
Speaks out just the way Magic Johnson is.
That's excellent.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Very well stated, Scott. I hope so too.
And have a good Thanksgiving to you both.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving.
Well, very educational call, and thanks for the call. And,
excellent.
Excellent, and it does bring up awareness. And the caller brought everything home correctly. We do have to be careful, whether you're not HIV positive or you are. Okay, we got one final caller. Let's go out to Memphis and say hello to Wanda. Hi, Wanda. You're live on King Jordan Radio with Ann Bremner tonight. How are you?
Hi, King. I'm doing great. Hey, Ann,
Hello.
It's so nice to talk to you.
Same here. I love your accent.
Oh, thank you. That's the deep Southern.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Thank you, Ann. I have a question about, we talked about statues and all, but is there any statute of limitations